This is the day we have been given, so let us be glad for all this rain. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm the Reverend Abhi Janamanchi. My pronouns are he, him, and I welcome you to worship this morning, and I'm privileged to serve you as one of your ministers.
I'm Lesley Vossen, pronouns she, her, the worship associate for today's service. We are a religious community where love, whether you are joining us in person or online, know that whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your gender identity and expression, beliefs, or immigration status, you are welcome here. Bienvenidos a todos.
If you're new to Cedar Lane, please raise your hand if you are comfortable doing so. Welcome. And please keep your hand raised for a moment longer so our ushers and greeters might find you and offer you a welcome gift. That also includes a form that has more information about Cedar Lane. And if you are able to fill out the form and place it in the offering plate, we would appreciate it. Thank you for choosing to welcome and worship with us. Let us offer our friends a warm Cedar Lane welcome. Thank you.
I would like to draw your attention to the announcements page that provides a wonderful snapshot of the many ways love works at Cedar Lane. Abhi has a few highlights.
Thank you, Lesley. I want to share that this Saturday, October 26th at 5 p.m., we will be hosting our 5th annual Diwali celebration, the Hindu Festival of Lights. It's always a joyous celebration where we come together and celebrate this amazing festival, a festival that celebrates not only the victory of good over evil, but also brings people together across faiths. And the program will include some wonderful Indian dances and a children's play that our children are putting together, and also some Indian music. There will also be henna, hand painting, for adults and children before and after the program, and a delicious home-cooked vegetarian meal. So, not to be missed. Look forward to seeing many of you there this Saturday. And on November 3rd, Sunday, at 12:45 p.m., we'll be convening right here in the sanctuary for a special congregational meeting to hear more about the exciting stuff happening around the renovations campaign that is all underway, and will include information as well as an opportunity for us to make a decision as a congregation. And if you wish to know more about some of the plans, please come to an informational meeting today at 12:30 in the library.
In this caring community, the pastoral visitors are an extension of the ministry team. Today's pastoral visitor is Helen Pekacek. She will be available at the Joys and Sorrows table during and after service if you would like to share a care or concern.
Thank you, Helen. And I am delighted to welcome to our Cedar Lane pulpit this morning my colleague and friend, the Reverend Vail Weller, who serves as our Congregational Giving Director for the Unitarian Universalist Association. Vail is a lifelong Unitarian Universalist. Oh yes, go ahead. Let's give her a welcome first. Thank you, Leo. That was awesome. Maybe not what your mother wants me to say, but it is awesome. Vail is a lifelong Unitarian Universalist, and she has served as a parish minister in congregations in California, Michigan, and West Virginia. And she currently lives in San Mateo, California, with her husband, the Reverend David Usher, who's also here with us. Welcome, David. And 2 children and a big German Shepherd. Yes, something we both enjoy and share. And now let us turn and greet our neighbors, especially our new folks. have broken your vows 1,000 times. You've broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, horses, no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Thank you.
Our opening words. Come, come, whoever you are.
Do you hear that voice calling you? Calling us?
That voice which calls us together here today in the sanctuary, made holy by our presence and by the sacred breath we share in our singing and speaking in silence.
That voice which calls us to remember that we are inextricably linked to all other life, woven into a vast tapestry of existence of which we are a powerful, integral, and holy part.
And just as we have been called together here today, we act as the heart and the hands of another call.
The call to
journey with the wanderers.
Sing and dance with the worshipers.
Lift up the memory of those who have taken their leave.
Hold the weary and the broken in the arms of love and community.
And hold the hands of all of us who have broken our vows and begin again in love, again and again, to the covenant and work of justice, humility, and Unitarian Universalism.
For this, we are here together today.
Come, yet again, come. Let us worship together.
As Elisangela, Carolina, and Tiago Vossen Fidalgo kindle the chalice, symbol of our gathered community, please rise in body and or in spirit to share in unison the chalice lighting words on the screen. With humility and courage, born of our history, we are called as Unitarian Universalists to build the beloved community where all souls are welcome as blessings and the human family lives whole and reconciled. With this vision in our hearts and minds, we light our chalice.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Dana Edwards, and my pronouns are she, her, and I am the intern minister here at Cedar Lane. All our children are saying goodbye now. I was going to say thank you to them. So thank you to our children's choir for reminding us that there's room at the table for everyone. And I think there's something under the table over here, actually. Oh, I wonder what that could be. What do you have here, Abhi?
I think it's a lantern.
A lantern. And what's inside the lantern?
There's a pretty cool LCD candle.
Nice. Yes, and it has a light.
Yes.
So it's a light that's shining. And it reminds me of a song that I know, that I think some people in this room might also know, called This Little Light of Mine. Has anybody here heard it?
Yes.
Yes, of course. And so This Little Light of Mine, a lot of people think of as a children's song, and in fact, they sing it in Children's Chapel with Tim before they go to their classes on Sundays. But actually, This Little Light of Mine is a song of resistance. It's a protest song, and I'm going to tell you a story about how it became a protest song. So in the 1960s, there was a woman named Fannie Lou Hamer who was actually born in October. Who here was born in October? Anybody? Yay, me too. Yeah, so we got some October birthdays, and Fannie Lou Hamer's birthday was also in October. And she was born in 1917 to sharecropper parents. And so she worked the land with her parents, and she didn't know until she was an adult that actually African American people could vote, that they were legally able to vote. Nobody had ever told her that. So there was room at the table for her, and she didn't even know it. So as soon as she found out that she could vote, that she belonged, that she was over 18 and so she could make a difference, she went right out and she tried to register to vote. And guess what? People did not make it easy for her. And I should say by people, I mean white people, did not make it easy for her to register to vote. She had to pass a ridiculous literacy test, but eventually she was allowed to register to vote. And with that success, she went back to her community and she said, hey, everyone, did you know that you have room, there's room at the table for you as well, and you can also vote. And so she got a school bus full of people, and she took them all into town, and she went to register them to vote. And they were allowed to register to vote. However, on their way back from voting, they were stopped by a group of white people, including the police. And they were told to get off the bus. And they knew if they got off the bus, not good things would happen. They knew this because they had watched other people be treated violently because they had decided to register to vote. They knew this because they lived in the Jim Crow South. They lived in apartheid, where they knew that dangerous things could happen when white people took you off the bus, scary and violent things. And so they said no. Fannie Lou Hamer said, no, I am not getting off this bus. My people are not getting off this bus. And so they said, you have to get off this bus. And she said, nope. And she started singing. And she sang, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. And she sang, and everybody on the bus joined her in singing, and they sang verse after verse after verse, because you can keep going with this one. And she kept singing, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, until the white people stepped off the bus and let them go, but not before giving them a $100 ticket for their bus being too yellow. So with that, we're going to sing our children out to their classes, and I wonder what you can do as an act of resistance this week. So let's start singing as soon as it comes up.
We gather each week, not for our needs alone, but to bear witness to our joys and sorrows, our disappointments and accomplishments. We gather to quiet our hearts and pause the pace of our lives and our minds, to unhook the garment of busyness and be with one another. We gather to be present to the beauty and brokenness in our world. In our Cedar Lane community, we hold in our hearts those who are mourning a loss and remember those whose lives have passed who still enrich us. We remember those for whom parenting is a primary spiritual practice. We send healing wishes to those struggling with illnesses seen and unseen, with mental illness or addictions. We hold in our hearts those who have suffered abuse or injustice, and those who are survivors and who are surviving. Our caring extends beyond Cedar Lane to all those whose lives are lost or impacted by calamities and violence in our world. Especially this week, we hold in our hearts the people of Japan who are recovering from the devastating impact of Typhoon Hagibis that killed 74 people and caused widespread damage and destruction. We hold in our hearts the people of Afghanistan who are recovering from yet another bomb blast that killed over 70 people in a mosque. We remember Tatiana Jefferson, a 28-year-old African-American woman who was killed in her home by a white police officer. And we mourn the passing of Congressman Elijah Cummings and hold his family and his friends in our prayers. His goodness, his compassion, and his commitment are a model that inspire us and remind us of what is worth fighting for and what we must resist. At this time, I invite those among us, if you are holding a loved one in your heart or remembering someone, to lift up their names into this sanctuary of caring. Let the naming begin. Would you join me now in the spirit of prayer and reflection? Nameless one of many names, God of our uncertain and sometimes courageous hearts, Spirit of life and love, in these days when hope is hard to find and harder to keep, help us remember that we are not called to be fearless all the time, but to develop the strength to face our fears. Help us remember that we are not the first to seek and embody beloved community and will not be the last. Help us remember that we are not called to be comfortable, but to be able to learn to face our discomfort together. Help us remember that we are not the first and will not be the last who struggle to get to the yes of our lives. Help us remember that this community is with us as we navigate these days and hold ourselves open to that love that will not let us go, let us down, or let us off the hook. Help us remember that the truth of our lives can fuel our compassion, our courage, and our commitment. That the truth of our lives can point us to the yes that we need to find. In the name of all that is holy and life-affirming and life-sustaining, we say Shalom, Salam, Om Shanti, Amen, blessed be. As we enter the silence together, those mourning the loss of a loved one or marking the anniversary of a loss are invited to rise in body or in spirit. So may it be. Blessed be.
Good morning. I'm Kate Harrison, and my pronouns are she and her. One afternoon several years ago, I was at Cedar Lane to pick up something at the office. The sanctuary was quiet and empty, and I was drawn in. The floors had been recently polished, so the chairs were stacked at the rear. It was a sunny afternoon, and rays of light brightened the windows and reflected off the floors. It was serene and beautiful. I found myself choking up a bit. This is strange, I thought. But it really wasn't, because that room, this room, wasn't empty at all. It's full of memory, experience, beauty, and belonging. So many words of encouragement and wisdom have come from this pulpit. So many memorial services have paid tribute to the remarkable lives of Cedar Lane members and friends. The space has been filled with music of every kind. It has been the scene of many weddings, including the ceremony for my son and daughter-in-law. Anniversaries, bar mitzvahs, the Transgender Day of Remembrance, Diwali celebrations, the joyous holiday craft fair, to name just some of the gatherings here that have contributed to our sense of community. One of the gatherings that has meant a lot to me over the years is our annual service auction. It may seem odd to include the auction in this context. It's not the same as a wedding or a memorial service, for sure. But when you think about it, it has all the characteristics that work to strengthen community and belonging. My husband Bob and I have been to most of the auctions since we first came to Cedar Lane in 1990. I have worked on the auction committee for more than a decade and co-chaired it twice. So it's part of our tradition here, and it means a lot to me. So why do I think the auction is so important to this community, aside from the fact that it brings in money that is a crucial part of our operating budget? It really is about providing a setting for people to be together and to enjoy each other's company. It is an opportunity to welcome each other into a circle of belonging. Belonging seems to me to involve both receiving and giving. The auction epitomizes this. The dinner served at the auction consists of soups and stews that are made by Cedar Laners, often using some of their family's favorite recipes. This is a very personal act of giving, and the receiving part is delicious.
Yes, indeed.
And look at the donations. Cedar Laners have hosted dinners in their homes, offered their vacation homes, donated hand-knitted and crocheted pieces, and other craft items such as paintings and photographs. They have baked bread, pies, cakes, and cookies. They have offered their professional expertise and have driven people to the airport at the crack of dawn. The Sky's the Limit auction will take place here on Saturday, November 2nd at 6 p.m. I hope you will take this opportunity to be with friends old and newly discovered. Whether you bid a little or bid a lot, you will be affirming the hard work of the many Cedar Laners who are making this evening possible. You will be receiving, but also giving, two important parts of belonging.
Present to this space and to one another, I'm going to invite you into a time of creative imagination. So I invite you to just close your eyes and go within. Imagine that your congregation is fully funded and has no worry about money.
Amen.
That all of your dreams for this place have come true. Look around. See in your mind's eye what's happening. Who is here? What do things look and feel like? What images come to mind? Broaden your vision a bit and imagine if all of the UU congregations in this geographic area were fully funded. what sorts of things would be happening? Who would be served? How might our principles be manifest? And widening the circle even more, what if our entire Unitarian Universalist Association was filled with congregations in which resources were generously shared and there was no limitation to the abundance? What sorts of things would be happening? Who would be served? What would things look and feel like? How might our congregations, towns, our nation, even our globe be affected by a fully resourced Unitarian Universalism?
From that liberating vision of abundance that blesses our lives and our world, may we now give and receive an offering to sustain the mission and ministry of this, our spiritual home.
That's Jasmin, right? Jasmin. Jasmin, you're something. That's beautiful. For the gifts of generosity that will be used to build the beloved community within and beyond these walls, we are truly grateful. The magic of your palm is that, though empty, it can be filled. But look at it, one of the planes of creation with which your body is equipped. Lines sweeping out to fingers and the marvels of opposable thumbs, that single leap toward grasping. And do not fear if you do not have hands. We know that you too create. And together we take up what it means to hold a value and make it come alive. More than only thought and feeling, rather being, doing, becoming. A sculpted expression, colorful, an embodiment of why we are, what we do, and what we will yet become. So I'm going to put my friend Abhi on the spot. Oh, no, I'm not yet. Okay. We're going to enjoy more music.
And now you can put me on the spot.
Now I can put you on the spot, but I'm glad that we got to enjoy that first. So, a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
Are you a coffee or a tea drinker?
I am an Indian coffee drinker.
Okay. And what's Indian tea? How is that made? Coffee, I mean, sorry.
Oh, just the way it is, but I have a whole ritual that I go through in the mornings with a percolator.
Okay, I see. So it's your particular version of coffee.
You bet.
Okay.
It is.
What's your favorite color?
Purple.
Mine too.
Ooh,
yeah,
right.
I love purple. What's your favorite cricket team?
Oh.
Shouldn't have gotten you started.
Well, India
Okay.
and Australia.
Okay. All right. How much money do you make?
I plead the fifth.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. You've proven the point, which is we can talk about lots of things, but that last question tends to be what we would call a conversation killer. Why is it that we're so deeply uncomfortable with that question? It's as though a wall suddenly arises between us, or worse, I feel my body moving into straight up fight or flight mode. It feels that dangerous. Psychologists remind us that when a reaction is out of proportion to the matter at hand, it's a sure sign that there's something deeper going on. How dare you? That's not appropriate to ask. We just don't talk about that. Why don't we? What is so taboo about this particular subject? Well, I came across an article written by Lisa Cressman, who's an Episcopal priest who runs an online community for preachers, and she was talking about this very thing, and she summarized a few of the reasons. According to Lizzie Post of the Emily Post Etiquette Dynasty, the ranking of topics from easiest to most difficult to talk about is weather, entertainment, food, one of my favorites, hobbies, sports, politics, religion, and relationships and sex, and then money. Another study in London revealed that people were 7 times more likely to talk with a stranger about sex, affairs, and their medical consequences, rather than to talk about their salaries. Close to 3/4 of Americans think that talking about money is rude. So I'm so thrilled to be here in your pulpit. No pressure. There are 2 things going on which I believe inform our reaction about the topic of money. Put in religious terms, there's been a severing of something sacred. There's also a cultural wound that is in need of healing. So let's begin with the cultural. It's a very middle-class value, a very white, privileged value to not talk about money. Again, referring to Lisa Cressman, who reminded me that in England, the wealth of others was easily estimated based upon the amount of land one owned and all it required to build up and maintain it. A person's wealth and the status, power, and prestige it implied was self-evident. People who had money didn't need to talk about it. Therefore, those who talked about money were the ones who didn't have it. And thus, the discussion of money was associated with those in a lower class. To oversimplify hundreds of years of social development, to be classy, meaning to be polite, genteel, respectable, meant not talking about money. And so this social norm was established. The early American colonizers from England brought this cultural value with them, and these values have taken hold in our larger culture and within Unitarian Universalism. However, I hope that we also know that there are cultural perspectives about money, about giving, and about the sacred cycle of generosity that do not emanate from that colonizer's perspective. There have been elaborate rituals throughout time in cultures across the globe in which gifts are given and received. Only the very best is what is given, and hoarding results in being cursed. We know that there are other options for how to deal with money and generosity, but I think most of us feel trapped within the system that we're in. So what are we to do? Well, I have good news. We're here. Congregations like Cedar Lane exist in order to support us in making difficult changes in the direction of spiritual wholeness and health. We come together on Sunday mornings not only for the pause from the daily routine or because of pain or the boredom of our lives, but also for, hopefully, inspiration and encouragement to express our highest values through the very living of our lives. And we need to make this decision over and over and over again because we are human. And as humans, again and again, we fall short of our highest ideals. It's dangerous to make assumptions. The culture of white privilege that we move within distorts our perspective, which serves the larger purpose of keeping us separate, disconnected from one another. White-centered culture also perpetuates this sense of shame around money, and we are therefore so much more likely to avoid discussing it at all. We are far more comfortable discussing pretty much anything else, including sex. You may know about our OWL curriculum, the Our Whole Lives curriculum, which is a comprehensive sexuality education program. Anything else other than money. Here's an example of how I've seen this play out. I've had conversations with many congregational leaders about asking members to give a certain percentage of their income to support the congregation. As an aside, it's 5% that we invite people to contribute. And we also recommend that people who have been part of the congregation for 10 years or more increase that to 10%. That's 10 by 10. That's a little device for you to remember so that you might consider it. But the concern that's always expressed is for the members that are deemed unable to pledge at that level. What if people can't afford to give like that? We don't want to exclude, and we don't want to offend. Here's the thing. First of all, assumptions are a very dangerous thing. We do not know what someone else is capable of doing, nor should we exclude them from the opportunity to participate fully. Also, consistently, statistically, individuals with a lower income give a higher percentage to charity than those with a higher income do. Now, some of you were at a workshop that we gathered for a few of us yesterday, so I invite you to sit this exercise out and not shout out the answer. So if you had to guess which state is the most generous in terms of percentage of charity, of income given to charity, what might you guess? I heard good guesses, and I heard one that was correct, which is Utah. So our friends who are Mormon, of course, are encouraged to give 10% of their income to their religious home. And if they are moved to support other causes, they do that on top of their contributions to their congregations. So the average giving to charity in the state of Utah is 10.6% of income. The next most generous states are Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and South Carolina, where giving averages between 6 and 7% of income given to charity. It's an interesting exercise to just do a calculation to figure out what your percentage is, just to know where it is as compared to that level of generosity. So who are we actually protecting when we express concern about asking for a percentage of income as a contribution to our congregations? I worry that subconsciously we are trying to protect people with a higher income. And I think we need to reckon with that. We need not be afraid to ask our own dedicated members and friends to support their own religious home. This congregation, your congregation, is worthy of that support. These values, your values, are worthy of support, even sacrifice. Cedar Lane is a remarkable congregation, and I trust that you're aware of that. Are you?
Yes.
Good. You are served by such a well-respected ministry team and staff, far and wide, renowned to be stunning colleagues, very, very gifted in leadership. You're served by a really excellent board, and there's so many other things going on within the life of the congregation that are worth celebrating. The religious education that's being offered here is shaping the next generation. That is no small thing, and organizations cannot claim to be doing that. That's a large thing. There's been an incredible shift in religious education here this year. Did you know that your 8th grade OWL class, that's the comprehensive sexuality education curriculum, has 23 kids in it? and that 10 or 12 of them are from families outside of Cedar Lane. It's a wonderful gift to the community. You're doing Senior High Owl all year long. A new Friday night social group called The River is meeting weekly. It just started. Tim has been doing amazing work around family ministry and multicultural family ministry. The level of pastoral care that you provide here in this congregation is notable, especially for a church of this size. Katie is working with teams of pastoral visitors and has introduced support groups, including a grief support group and a group for parents who are in families with mental health issues. This is beautiful ministry within and beyond these walls. The ministry that you're offering through your social action is astounding. The most well-known, which I've been following for a long time from a distance, is that this is your 10-month anniversary of having a partner in sanctuary, Rosa, coming up on a year in December. She has been living here with you. There are over 200 people involved in this effort, half of whom are Cedar Lane folks and the other half who are interfaith partners. You're also very involved in community-based organizing, working on immigrant rights, housing, and more in Montgomery County. Cedar Lane has an incredibly active environmental justice ministry team, and you have an amazing pair of leaders that I loved hearing about, who happen to be sisters, aged 11 and 15, who are very involved in leading climate strike efforts in the community. I haven't even said a word about the stellar worship life within this congregation that nourishes you all week after week, and the beautiful music program. You are known in the larger community as a place where people come to live out their values. In fact, a local member of Congress stated that Cedar Lane is ground central for the revolution. Yes. And meant that as a compliment. I just want to be clear, because you never know these days, right? So as an institution, you are living out your values. You are transforming lives and are known for that far and wide. When it comes to our relationship with money, of course, the other thing that's at work is spiritual. When we forget that we are all connected, we labor under the illusion that money belongs to us, rather than understanding that money is a form of energy that can not only be used to meet our basic needs, but also that it exists to support the common good. We may work to earn money, but that amount of money does not in any way inform our worth as beings. It is not our money that defines us. Our culture tries to convince us otherwise by portraying the accumulation of wealth as the ultimate point of living, and then dividing us into strict class groups which sever our connections with one another, impoverishing us. The separations between us are a part of the sickness of our time. And another is the illusion of consumerism as the true religion. In our hearts, we know better. And yet, this is the water that we swim in. How can we possibly affect something so huge? Nothing at all truly belongs to us. Any wealth that we accumulate is only with us temporarily. When we cross the threshold out of this life, we only take with us the love we have nourished while here. But I have good news. There is a way to be reminded that money can work magic. there is a path that leads to re-enchantment, and that is the reprioritization of the common good and our own beloved Unitarian Universalist values in our understanding of giving. I believe that you will even look forward to giving generously when you know that it is a way for you to enrich the common good, to express your interdependence with others, and to strengthen Unitarian Universalism, not only for ourselves and our time, but for generations to come. This has the potential to re-enchant your relationship with money. So I have a proposition for you to consider. I want to encourage you to create an IRA. Now, I'm not talking about an IRA that will provide you with retirement funds. This is a different kind of IRA. This is an integrity resource alignment. If you were asked by your best friend, your child, or your grandparent what your highest values are, what would you say? I don't believe that you'd say that your highest value is the accumulation of stuff. I don't believe that you'd say your highest value is to overwork so that when you come home, you are nothing but an empty shell. I don't believe that you'd say your highest value is to earn money so that you can spend it all on yourself and your family, or hide it all away so that it never sees the light of day. Instead, I guess that if your coworker or your grandchild or your best friend asked you your highest value, you might talk about your belief in making society better. You might talk about leaving the world a better place than you found it, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, the interconnectedness of all life, spiritual growth. You might talk about working for justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. You might talk about your belief in freedom for all people. You might lift up love as the most important power. These are Unitarian Universalist values, values that I am guessing are at the heart of your lives. Only you can answer the question of if these values are at the very heart of your giving. I invite you to consider aligning your resources with your highest values by contributing a noticeable share of your financial energy to Cedar Lane, your beloved religious home, which is at work in the world to address the challenges of our time. This means giving an amount that you actually feel and notice in your daily life, an amount that centers your commitment to this place and its principles as a way of practicing your faith. It means not wavering from this commitment. It means allowing your discretionary spending to come after this promise. You can begin with 5%, which is conservative compared to the 10% that our Mormon friends give. But we can work up to that over time. Our values are just as worthy as those of our friends in that faith. And I believe they are so desperately needed in this time and in this place. So I want to ask you to just follow my lead for a second and imitate what I'm about to do. Just take your hands and clench them as tightly as you possibly can. And then release and open your arms. Let's do that again. Squeezing tightly. One last time. Give it your all. What do you notice about the difference in how that feels? Each stance feels very, very different. Erwin Raphael McManus writes, "Generosity is about being free. The generous are free from the things of this world. While they own possessions, their possessions do not own them. They are free from taking for their own benefit and are free to give, even when it results in personal sacrifice. Generosity is love in action, and love is measured in giving, not taking." So we, as Unitarian Universalists, believe in freedom for all people. We believe in religious freedom, democracy, and the rest. I want you to be free in all ways. I want us as Unitarian Universalists to be free from the illusion of separateness, free from the lie of consumerism, and free from shame around money. I want you to be free to re-enchant your relationship with money. I want you to be free to give your best share, to serve your highest values. I want you to be free to align your resources and your integrity. I want you to be free to be truly generous, to contribute more than you ever thought possible, and to experience how healing that kind of generosity can be. I want you to be free to give. May we each know what it really means to be free, to use our temporary resources to serve the greatest possible good, and to invest a noticeable share of our income in this community, which transforms lives within and far beyond these walls, and represents our highest values in the public square. It's in our hands. May it be so that we may live, love, and give freely. Amen. And we're going to sing. The closing hymn is number 151, "I Wish I Knew How."
bump elbows with your neighbor.
Bless these hands for why they are, for what they do, and for what they will yet become. As you go, may you feel the lasting embrace of this community, the calling of the Spirit, and the purpose of your living. May you go in peace and with great joy. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated for the postlude.